All right, what is up with everybody? This is the Detroit Lions News podcast. Happy New Year to you before New Year's actually falls. And we wanted to get a new podcast in because obviously the Lions play the Bears, but this game really doesn't mean much for the Detroit Lions. Now, if the Vikings win, the Lions can go out there and beat the Chicago Bears and it'll be all good and dandy. And what a terrible game that will be. Clayton Tune versus Max Brosmer. Over under on passing yardage in that game, James, for just everyone that really wants to know,
And
is
now the Packers, I think, are going to have Desmond Ridder on their active roster for
yes.
game day too. So there's
Yep.
maybe even some speculation. Maybe, hey, it's not like Clayton Tunes earned anything. Maybe they just throw Desmond Ridder out there. But yeah, when I saw, I was really looking at the game lines for Week 18, kind of every 10 minutes or so around, after Week 17, just seeing what things were going to look like, and I think the initial line was maybe like Minnesota -5.5. And just on surface, I'm like, wow, like that's insane. And the only explanation was I just immediately went to, okay, wow, like so Malik Willis isn't going to play either. So, yeah, that game, I think I even checked before I went on here, at least on DraftKings, Minnesota's 7.5 point favorite now. So, I mean, I talked about this the other day, but hopefully Minnesota wins that game. And if you're someone like me who's really, and I got nothing but Bears and Packers fans commenting on every single one of my tweets, calling me a loser because I've just been tweeting about the fourth place schedule. Because what else am I going to talk about? The Lions are were eliminated, so I'm not going to be talking about, oh yeah, let's see who we're going to be playing and stuff. So I have shifted my attention towards next year, but yeah, hopefully Minnesota wins that game, and then I guess if you're full next year, you're thinking, oh, well, if we lose to the Bears, we could maybe even get up to like 12 or 13 in the draft order. But all in all, getting a fourth place schedule and then beating the Bears and finishing 9-8, as far as a consolation, that totally stinks, and we'd much rather be in the playoffs. I've kind of, and again, if you have the mindset like me, where I'm not one of these like, oh my gosh, we're totally doomed, we need to fire everyone and trade Jared Goff, and like we're done. I have the mindset that we're capable of bouncing back next year. So if we have an easier schedule and a top 15 draft pick, like all in all, like again, considering you want to much rather be in the playoffs, like I'm actually, state of the Lions, I could be doing worse right now.
I think, well, first of all, I don't think this, but I think the two things that you have to really take into account is what this Lions team is, and this Lions season is, they were one of the most unlucky teams. And I think I've seen a stat yesterday where the luck of their team was like 30th in the league, which is not.
Yeah, I did see that. I had no idea what that chart meant, but it said we were the third unluckiest.
Well, basically what it breaks down is like turnovers, how lucky you got in like terms, and it even goes in depth, like in the weeds. But the reality of the situation is you were like the 30th luckiest team. So there you go. You're in the red, like by a lot. And usually those teams do not make the playoffs. And then there was another one where it was air yards and all that stuff. And the Detroit Lions were 8th in that statistic. And then they finished out. They're the only team in the top 10 that did not make the playoffs. And then you look at the injuries that you had, like I said on the last podcast, which James wasn't on, but you look at Brian Branch, the injury to Brian Branch, that was the kind of the mea culpa of the season, where a lot of people don't think of safeties as the run defense and everything. They think of it as pass defense. But Brian Branch was incredibly important in the run D. And when he left, you've seen Jalen Warren, of all people, run for 100 yards. And I think the Steelers ran for 8.5 per rush. And then you've seen what the Rams did to you. And even the Vikings were running on you, they have like basically dead bodies. So what it comes down to is just you kind of ran out of steam. And, James, you're not in a wrong for thinking about next year, because the reality of the situation is like, how does this team get better from here? And I look at it like this. There's two ways we could take this. And obviously we're going to talk about the Bears and Lions at the end. We'll talk about that and kind of go through all that. But the way I look at it, James, is this team was closer than most people think to winning and going to the playoffs, right? It was just a couple games here and there. where they couldn't win those games, and that's what kind of stung
You know
them.
what's also crazy too, just to interrupt real quick, but
Oh, you're
after
good.
all this, we did all this, we had all like, we talked about all this, how everything was kinda going wrong. If they just would've beaten the Steelers and Vikings the last 2 weeks, they'd be sitting in a playoff spot right now and have a chance to win the division, I believe, if they would've beaten, Chicago on top of it. So, like, you're right, like, this was, like, probably a game going their way more to at least, like, having a chance to make the playoffs still.
Yeah, and it was, and they had every chance. And I want to give a lot of people, a lot of people out there who want to blame Jared Goff. You're ridiculous. I was reading a statistic today that Easy posted from the Woodward Sports. He posted about the time to pressure, and it was interesting because the time to pressure he had was at 2.5 seconds. It was the second fastest time to pressure. You know how I hate this time to pressure stat, but in this point, it does make sense because 2024 Lions team was 2.74, which was 24th in there, and then 2025 the Lions defense ranks fifth slowest in time to pressure. It's about the quarterback you play, and obviously when you have a quarterback like Jared Goff, you can get pressure a little bit more. But I think where we went wrong this season, and I kind of went on this after the Vikings game, James. Uh, you look at the offensive line, Christian Mahogany, right? Everyone thought he was going to be a pretty good player. He turned out to be this was a terrible year for him, and
It
he needs to
also
go back to the
sucks he
drawing board.
got hurt too because I'm totally with you, and we can get into this more. I was even like, I'm skeptical even having him be a starter this year just because he only had 2 starts, but
Right.
he didn't really look great this year. And then on top of it, we didn't even get like a full year. Like, it would have been great if he could have played the whole season and we would at least like more definitively have the
Yeah.
answer. But now we're left at like, oh, we played like a third of the season and it wasn't encouraged. Like, it wasn't horrible by any, like, I don't want to paint it out he was terrible, but it's like, no, like in the 8 whatever games he's played in his career over 2 years, is that enough to solidify him as a starter for next year, especially after how many concerns our offensive line had in general? Like, not really.
Yeah, well, I look at like I posted this after the game, in terms of the way that the Lions played and everything. And where is it? I'm getting to it, but it, the 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 way I broke it down was there's a lot of things that you could take out of this. There's a lot of nonsensical takes that come out of this season, but the interior of offensive line, 64 pressures, 7 sacks, and Mahogany had 4 sacks alone and 23 pressures, which is not good. Um, and when you look at the season and the way it kind of spiraled out of control, I don't know if you think about this, James, if you thought about this, but it seemed like Dan Campbell took over play calling, right? You thought everything was going to get better, and the offense did look better, right? They were on an enormous pace. I mean, Jameer Gibbs. This was what Jameer Gibbs would be doing in a 17 game span if he was Dan Campbell was calling the plays, right? But then you think about it like this: how many times did the Lions look out of sorts? How many times did he not did Dan have to go on focus on the offense when he could have been helping the defense out or special teams out? I think it all played a role. I think
I
every
definitely
game,
agree with that last
like
point
the
of
pla the
Dan
player
Campbell.
the player personnel, like Monty not getting carries. I think that there's people in the booth that could have said something and they didn't, and that's where I think every person on the staff should be really on edge. Because if I was Dan Campbell, I'd be pretty pissed because what do I employ you for? Like what do I employ you for? You know, and that's kind of the way I look at it. I look when Dan Campbell took over play calling, yeah, it kind of worked out in the Lions' favor in a sense, but it's felt like the team took a step back in terms of their preparation and the way that they thought about things on game day.
Yeah, I would agree. And even more to that point, like there were things where it seemed like throughout the entire year, our procedural penalties or our alignment penalties before the snap offensively, like none of that stuff got corrected. The run game really was, and I was listening to the Lions Collective the other day, and like how Kelvin Shepard likes to talk about. like if you take away a play here or play there, our defense looks better. Offensively, if you take away like Jahmyr Gibbs's like handful of like huge electric touchdown runs, like our run game for the talent that we have really was not
No,
great this year. Like our
no.
that's like offensively for someone like me that is I'm in the 1 percentile of like defending our offense this year. Like our run game design wise and structurally really was kind of broken this year. Like we should have way more times than not where we're handing the ball off and at least like getting to the line of scrimmage. Like there's so many times this year where these run plays just had no chance, and like Jahmyr Gibbs being amazing. Some of them he's turned into big runs, but a lot of them he's just had to kind of make what he could out of it. But yeah, I think as you just said, like this coaching staff, and I listened. I think I listened a little bit. It might have even been the post game show you did, but like the coordinators, I think Kelvin Shepard had an incredibly disappointing, bottom or last third of the season. I think from all, and I would have even said this in real time. You probably would have too. Like he's going to be back, I would predict, and I'm not like 100% down on Kelvin Shepard, but he's going to have a better season. This defensive front seven was largely pretty healthy down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no reason elements of our team, like such as the run defense, completely imploded. And I get, the Brian Branch injuries, and there's a lot of other, whether anyone wants to admit it or not, this was still probably most 3 injured team in the NFL this year. Like most 5 injured, if you're being super conservative. Like the injuries definitely played a huge part in our season. But I think you're going to have to look at everything. And from a personnel standpoint, for me, I really think it's as simple as, whenever I'm this offseason, I'm going to stick to it consistently. We can talk about a million different positions, and I'm sure to every degree we will. But for me, it's all about the trenches and the offensive and defensive lines. Clearly, we need to upgrade. You just talked about with Christian Mahogany. Like I think he should have to like 100% flat out earn a job this year. If not, be replaced, like in an extreme sense. So he's going to need to be on the table. Obviously, you're going to need a legitimate center option, and I still don't think like I love Tate Ratledge as a prospect, but I don't know after a year that we just had if it can be as simple as just moving him over to center. That gives me a lot of pause. So they're going to need to figure out all that. They're going to need potentially multiple upgrades there, and then on the defensive line, which would probably be my biggest point in this whole offseason, is I think you're going to need a completely revamped offensive or defensive line. I mean, you have DJ Reader, who I think is going to be gone. Now, that's a starter each of the last 2 years. And then on the edge, you had Al-Quadin Muhammad, who I think was a resounding success this year, double-digit sacks. And I'll get into it as kind of my larger point on this, but he's the only one really out of the whole rest of the defensive line, out of all the, especially on the edge. Like they tried, like Tyler Lacey played a lot actually. Like that was the guy that started like a handful of games. He was a total nothing. Davenport was your offseason day one starter. I mean, he missed half the season, and when he has been healthy down the stretch, he's been a total nothing. You had Pascal and Levi. I mean, Levi Onwuzurike, when you signed him, was kind of like a de facto starter. He didn't end up playing. He's got to be gone. Pascal was going to be a big rotation piece. He's got to be gone. And then even, like I said, the one guy that performed, Al-Quadin Muhammad, I think it's still bizarre that even last week he's playing less than 20 snaps per game. Really throughout this whole season, you can almost attribute to him to that lull, like mid-season, him not doing much, of them just like not really playing him that much. Like the games where he's had sacks or 2 or 3 sacks, he's played like 30, 40 snaps a game. And he's been productive even when he hasn't, but that's the one guy that you can kind of hang your hat on and say, okay, like he's been productive, and they didn't really seem to value him as much as they should have. And then on top of it, like you may lose him this year. Like he had a good enough season to where I saw a projection the other day, like 8+ million a year, maybe. Like there's a
Mhm.
team out there that's capable. Oh, like I like what I saw. I'm going to offer him a 2 or 3 year deal at 7-8 million a year. Like I don't know. Like maybe you lose
So
him. So like that as is, you're losing your starter on the edge at Davenport and whoever else, and you're losing Reeder on the interior, and then basically everyone you tried at the opposite edge is either gone, should be gone, or is Al-Quddin Muhammad, where you're just hoping you're able to re-sign him because he was the one guy that gave you something.
So here's how it's gonna go. Our off-season calendar, the first podcast we do after the season's ending, what we're gonna do is every week we're gonna break down position by position. I've already got involved in it. And I know James has got involved in it. James is gonna be a focal point on the podcast moving forward too. Just so you know. Well, I was gonna make that announcement earlier, but we kind of got sidetracked. But James, you mentioned Al Muhammad is market value. Market value is $8.3 million. So you might have to pony up. And to put that in perspective, $8.3 million is more than Dante Fowler will get in there. Leonard Floyd is going to get 8.9 at his market value. He's going to get more than Hassan Reddick. So it showed you that you do get pressure on the quarterback. This is where I kind of had a problem with Calvin Shepard. I said after the game that I felt like when the secondary had injuries, I don't know if he could even coach the team because he didn't make any adjustments. I felt like if it was Aaron Glenn, he would have made the adjustments to get pressure, because damn well your secondary is not going to hold up. I mean, I was talking about Amik Robertson on the podcast. Did you know he almost gave up 900 yards receiving? I mean,
I had a
I love him.
conversation with him like internally in my head where it's like Amik Robertson's probably gone.
I love Amik Robertson,
I
but
do too.
as an outside corner, that is not his top.
And honestly, you're right. Like, because I've talked about this too. Like, really, he should be like your CB3, CB4. Like,
Yes.
he had to be like your CB1, CB2.
I mean, you had Rocky since doing it, and he was a walking pass interference, kind of like Arnold. And Reed never really got on track or whatever. But you mentioned center, right? Center is the one you mentioned. I got two names for you. Everyone brings up Tyler Linderbaum from the Baltimore Ravens, and I love him. I like Linderbaum. He's a fantastic a player. But I'm going to give you two names I think that should be on the Lions' radar, and I'll give you stats to back it up. Connor McGovern from Buffalo. He's 28. His market value is going to be 16 million, so that's going to be a little bit of a oh boy. But if you really want to shore up the center position, and you don't want to pay the 17.7 market value that is Tyler Linderbaum, and there's speculation that his market value can go up to 21 or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
I think either the Ravens are going to re-sign him, or if not, he's going to be like one of the most coveted free agents in the entire offseason. Like there's going to be a huge bidding war for that guy.
but I look at Connor McGovern, and I'll give you some statistics with him. He ranked
lost out there.
He ranked 7th in passing efficiency with 98.7, which is 7th in the NFL among centers. To put that in perspective, Graham Glasgow ranked 22nd. So you'd be getting a little bit of a better player. Now there is, he gave up 0 sacks this year. I mean, 0 sacks, 2 hits, 12 hurries, and 14 pressures. Cade Mays, who is he's a third year man out of Tennessee, Go Vols, which they lost.
Tough loss for the Vols.
They lost to the Illinois Fighting Illini, which the Big Ten's undefeated in the Bulls now, which is insane. And who says the Bulls don't matter? But Cade Mays, he had a great year with Carolina. His market value is 12 million flat. His passing efficiency, he was ranked 10th overall. He gave up 0 sacks, 3 hits on the quarterback, 11 pressures. Put that in perspective, Graham Glasgow gave up 21 pressures. So you'd be getting a little bit better there. And then there's a guy named Ted Karras who is a Cincinnati.
I love that. I would love that guy. That guy, I've seen him play a lot. That guy he plays with a lot of emotion.
Yes.
He loves football. He's a great team guy. I would love if that's who they brought in. I would be 100% for it. I
And he
love.
comes in at a good price tag. He's 30. He'll be 33 in a couple months. He's been in the league for 10 years. He'll come in at $6.5 million compared
Oh,
to
you
Cade
might have
Mays.
sold me on this one. I think he might make a lot of sense, honestly.
And to put it into perspective, I brought up Cade Mays. I brought up Connor McGovern. Ted Karras ranks 10th overall. He's tied with Cade Mays in centers. Now he gave up 1 sack and 2 hits and 16 hurries. But if we actually put into perspective, his quarterbacks were Joe Flacco, Jake Browning, and Joe Burrow, kind of similar to Jared Goff. Okay, Joe Flacco is not going to run for a first down. We know that. Jake Browning, not really a running quarterback. He can run, but he looks like a dead fish coming out when he's
Terrible pocket. He'll run into sacks.
he runs into sacks.
Yeah.
So again, Ted Karras isn't a good one. Cade Mays is a good one. Connor McGovern's a good one. But you look at some of the centers that are out there, and you're going, okay, not really. Sean Ryan from the Green Bay Packers is another one, but I gotta imagine that they'll sign him. And then if you look at the guards,
he's their backup too. They had Elton Jenkins as their starter, but he got hurt.
Yeah, Elton Jenkins sucks. So I never liked Elton Jenkins. But you look at guard and you go, okay, who's the guards that are available? Batonio is going to be available. Some people wanted to spend a first round pick on. Zeitler will be back available. Evan Neal, Wyatt Teller. Maybe they get back Kevin Zeitler. That'd be nice. But yeah, I look at this David Edwards. Those could be good guys that you can get, but I just look at it like this. There's a lot of opportunities for this team to get better. I think
they should draft the center, honestly. Even if it's like they somehow get a 3rd round pick or they use a 4th round pick or something. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to going higher than that, but I think signing a veteran that I feel like that at like probably both, like one of the guard spots, like let's just say Ratledge plays right guard again next year. You'd sign like Ted Karras, and then you draft you draft a center in the 2nd or 4th round. Like that could be a pretty, like, honestly, I'd use the same plan for getting an edge on the defensive line too. I heard, and honestly, I was thinking the same thing. And then Justin Rogers basically took the words out of my mouth the other day. He was talking about this. It's like, the Lions really should just draft the 1st or 2nd round, like draft an edge. I mean, we basically haven't done that outside of Aiden Hutchinson. You can get a guy there. Like in an ideal world, you re-sign, like maybe get Al-Qadim Muhammad back. You draft an edge. Now you have those 2 guys. I just think that the archetype of like a speed type, like Justin Rogers said, Nick Bonito, not in the sense that obviously like he is maybe the best guy like this in the NFL, but just that guy that can just run around a guy by pure athleticism, juke out a guy, whatever. That's what Al-Qadim Muhammad's been. That's what's given you 10 plus sacks, even in limited playing time. Like they always want these big bodied, pocket crushing defensive, like that's the archetype they want opposite of Hutchinson. You can still have a guy or 2 like that, but I really do think they need to put a legitimate asset into drafting an edge. And I'd probably put it the same way on the offensive line, like go out and use a 1st or 2nd round pick on an offensive lineman or defensive lineman, and then double down in free agency, getting doesn't have to be some all-pro superstar, but go out and get a legitimate edge in free agency and go out and get a legitimate center in free agency or trade or whatever. Like, so I think if you get a guy that's proven and use a 1st or 2nd round draft pick on both of those positions, like that can be a great kind of starter plan for the offseason.
So here's the deal. I just did a mock draft simulator because I love those things, especially Pro Football Focus one. Here are the names that came up, and I'll put this up because there's some pretty good names that came up, and I think they would actually interest the Detroit Lions. Here is the name. So David Bailey is one. David Bailey is the edge from Texas Tech. Yep. He's 6'3", 250. He could be a guy. But the why I put it up is look at everything falls in line for Detroit, right?
I gotta interrupt you real quick. Cassius Howell, that guy went to Bowling Green. He
Mhm,
redshirted as a true freshman, played
mhm.
as a played as a redshirt freshman, like basically wasn't anything. Then his redshirt sophomore year, he was basically what he is now, just an unguardable freak, leads the MAC in sacks, and then he transfers to Texas A&M, and now he's going to be a first round pick. I mean, wow,
So
that's crazy seeing that on that. He's the definition of what I just described, like an athletic, like I'm gonna just beat my man one on one and get a sack.
so if okay, you know this guy, so more than me, you've seen him more. I've seen him with Texas A&M, but I didn't see him.
I wouldn't be like insane about picking him, but he's like that type. Like I mean, he's right there probably in terms of what the value is. But
So what would you like? Who would you compare him to, like in terms of like a guy who you could potentially get, like kind of like
I
David
would
Bailey?
compare him to like the first round version of James Houston. That's
Oh,
what I
okay,
would compare
okay,
Cassius Howell to.
okay.
Like in terms of like if you're like basically if James Houston was better and viewed as a first round, had better skill sets, whatever, a little bit more complete as a player, but he's a like Cassius Howell is a like if you leave him one on one, like that guy has crazy bend, can move really well, isn't does have the bull rush, but that's definitely not his strength. It's more of I'm going to use my athleticism to just get around you. But that's a guy that's been like for 3 or 4 years now, really since his redshirt sophomore season, he's been as good of a get after the quarterback guy as there is in college football.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your perspective because a guy like I was pounding the table with Byron Young, um, a couple
I
years
know
ago,
Brad
and
Holmes really liked Jared Verse. I mean, I know
mm,
and honestly, that's the pocket crushing type guy. That's a little bit. I mean, ultimately, if you get someone like that, like I'm fine if that's ultimately what it is. I don't need necessarily my archetype. If you get a legitimate, like Jared Verse is a legitimate starting defensive end. Like if you can find someone like that that fits your archetype, that isn't a like bargain bin. I hope he turns into something. Like I just want I think we can have the value of controlling a guy for 4 to 5 years as a legitimate guy on the defensive line that has some pass rushing ability.
I think if they were in that position where I just showed you where they have David Bailey there, they take David Bailey
I,
because he's
I think that makes sense. Yeah.
because he's the one thing that I think this team really covets, if I look at anything, is an edge rusher that commits to stopping the run. And when you look at his run stop rate, it's 8.4, which is probably one of the best. And he's got 14 sacks this year, 20 hits, 43 hurries. He's been all over the place. He's a beast.
I mean, they
And,
probably have the best defensive line in college football. I mean,
well,
to your point, like they have some legit, like they have big time. Those guys on their defensive line are going to be players in the NFL.
oh yeah, they got the kid Romello Height
Yeah,
who's really good, but he kind of reminds me of the guy at the top Cassius Howell,
yeah.
more of a speed rusher type guy. But if David Bailey fell to Detroit, they got to take him. That's Jared Verse right there, and that's kind of what Brad Holmes would love to get. Someone said Al-Quadin Muhammad is going to be too expensive. I kind of agree with it.
He absolutely could be. That's what I talked about earlier. Like the one guy opposite of Hutch that we like is like, oh no, this guy was productive and we'd like to have him back. Like
Yeah,
he could legitimately be signed by someone else because he
some team's
plays
going
so
to be
well.
like, "Oh my god, look what he did," and then they're going to be like,
Yeah.
"Uh."
Oh, we have the cap space. We'll throw a multi-year deal at him at the full. Like hell, we'll give him a 2-year, $18 million deal.
Well, I remember what was it? Last year when I think it was, I think the Jets signed some free agent for like, oh, Justin Fields for 2 years. They're like, oh, they're gonna regret this. Sure as shit, they're gonna regret it. But that's what happens when you get to free agency. I think the teams that sign the most players, they're usually the team that suck the most, and we know that as Lions fans because
That's honestly, it really is mostly true. You got to fill needs, get a couple spots. Maybe it is you get a for some teams it makes sense. You have the cap space. It is a bigger name guy as one of them, but yeah, really these teams that are just, oh my gosh, look at remember the offseason, the Titans got L'Jarius Sneed. That was the guy the Lions fans really wanted. They got like 4 or 5 other huge ticket guys, and it was like, when you're doing this, you haven't drafted anyone. You have huge cap space, and like you're just a terrible team. But
Well,
it's
to make it
man,
to make
their free agency is going to be fascinating because they have like DJ Reader's probably gone, Anzalone is probably gone. Like I think Jared Goff, this does make sense to be the offseason where you restructured his deal. You could do that with other guys. Like, I mean, they're going to have room to, this is their part before the draft where they've been making moves. They got DJ Reed, they traded for Carlton Davis. Like, they're going to go out and make moves, but they got to be the right ones.
So I've always been told, I was going to get to this on the post-season podcast, but people always say, "Oh, what's the Lions cap situation?" Here's the cap situation, and this is why the Lions have kind of put themselves in a better situation than most teams in terms of how they're managing their dead cap. The dead cap for next year is $4.3 million, which is really good in terms of teams that are.
What's the Eagles' dead cap for next year, dude? Does have all
the Philadelphia Eagles' dead cap is $40.3 million.
Oh,
that's 4th most in the NFL.
Wow.
So their dead cap is insane.
That actually is super impressive. It's under $5 million, you said, for the Lions?
Yeah, it's literally $4.3 million, which is absolutely, in terms of a contending team, like,
it really is incredible.
It's incredible because what the Lions do correctly, and I don't like to poo-poo it because I think it's one of the most, probably the best thing they do in that organization is cap structure.
Yeah.
Like the cap structure is the most. Like we look at next year for the dead cap for, these teams or whatever. I mean, you got teams that are in they're in a terrible, terrible situation in terms of what they're dealing with. So it sucks for a lot of other teams, but for Detroit, it's good. I mean, I was looking at I was trying to look at the dead cap that these teams have, but I can't really get to it. But yeah, it was just insane to me because, again, $4.3 million, and then if you want to go to the next year, 2027, I mean, they have zero. There's not many contending teams that have zero as their dead cap 2 years out. I mean, if we look at the Eagles and their kind of situation, this is why I say their philosophy is kind of, it's not going to work. I mean, they're going to have more dead cap next year than cap space. So there you go. And that's not even factoring in if Lane Johnson retires because he has a huge cap hit. That's not factoring in if like AJ Brown gets traded.
It seems like that really, I was going to bring that up. That seems like that could really happen.
Well, if they trade him, his dead cap is $72.5 million.
Wow.
So that's not good. And they have a lot of players that are going to be having dead cap. Like Brandon Graham is going to be a dead cap hit next year. So that's the interesting thing. But it's interesting. It's interesting when you look at it from that perspective because I think a lot of people, especially like fans, they always look at the team and they go, "Why don't they spend money?" Well, you're gonna get a little bit of a reprieve of why they don't spend money, like out of sorts, because they don't have the dead cap, and that's good. But you look at their cap space, and they got $13 million of cap space. But they're going to restructure Jared Goff's $69.6 million. That was going to happen regardless of it. And I got to imagine they'll restructure St. Brown and Sewell. Those would be the ones I would think. And then maybe they get Taylor Decker to take a pay cut. That's what I think they could do. So that's probably what they're probably going to do. That's their main course, like their top 10 players that they're paying next year. Monty's one of them. He could be gone. Graham Glasgow. Oh, that's 20. Yeah, that's Graham Glasgow. So I don't know if they'll pay him or whatever because he's a free agent in 2027. So is Dave Montgomery. Where is Dave Montgomery? 2028 for Dave Montgomery, but he's You know, that dead cap for Dave Montgomery if is 4.8. Graham
I think
Glasgow's
they're
is 2.
gonna keep Montgomery, honestly.
Yeah, Glasgow can be easily thrown to the side.
I think
2.8,
he'll be gone.
2.8.
Yeah.
You look at other players like are they going to get rid of Taylor Decker? His is 9.4.
Hopefully not.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
the only one that you really could get rid of, and it makes sense, is Glasgow. That's the only one that you can really
Yeah.
get rid of. So that's interesting. But I don't know, man. I look at this season and I look at it like it could have went a myriad of different ways, but I think there's a lot of ways this team can get better. We mentioned the centers that they can go after. We mentioned some of the guards that they can go after. Obviously, the draft, they're going to go draft some guys. I think that the guys that they could draft, you look at like a Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon. If you get a chance to watch Oregon tomorrow, because they're playing New Year's Day.
Hey, what
Um,
do you think about? I've seen just in the couple mock drafts that I've looked at, but I've seen other people say this player is a fit for the Lions, and I don't position wise, I don't think it would really make that much sense to take this player, but that Tennessee corner seems to be. Everyone says that guy's a Lions type guy.
you talking about Roger? Who is the corner?
I don't even know his name. There's a corner from Tennessee. He didn't even play in the bowl game. They sat him out.
You talking about the Tennessee corner?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Is it what's his
yeah,
Hood? Is it?
yeah, Hood. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, Colton Hood.
What
Yep,
are your thoughts on it? I just was curious what your thoughts on him were as a player.
he's probably one of the better players on the Tennessee defense. He's really good, and you look
Yeah.
at some of the statistics that he's doesn't give up much completion percentage. He played a lot in man coverage. He played good zone too. He had a chance for more interceptions because he had 2 last year, I believe, and then he had 1 this year, which was a pick six. But I just look at him like, first of all, he's not a small guy. He's 6 foot
Right.
195, which is pretty good for a corner. But the one thing I like about Colton Hood compared to a lot of other corners is he's got that dog in him. We say Tyrion Arnold has that dog in him, kind of. Not really, not in my opinion. Um, People like Kool-Aid McKinstry. He didn't have a dog mentality in him. I loved Christian Gonzalez coming out of college. I thought he was great. I thought what was the other cornerback? Witherspoon. I thought he had a dog personality. I kind of compare him with those guys. Like I think Colton Hood is a really good player. Like in terms of the corners that are coming out of this draft, like Terrell and Brandon Cease, who is from South Carolina. If you were to tell me who would you take, I mean, I probably would take, based on the way that they play, the Lions play, and the way that Colton Hood plays. I mean, he's good in run defense too. His run defense grade is not bad for a corner, but Avion Terrell from Clemson, he's pretty good too. So there's some good cornerbacks in this draft, but Colton Hood is definitely a good player. I kind of compare him to like a Devin Witherspoon kind of type. I think when he gets to the combine, that's when I think that him and Terrell are gonna just explode up draft boards and go early in the first round. That's what I think.
Yeah. I do have a couple draft points that I wanted to make. One, I really think for a organization that has kind of largely been built on draft picks outside the first round. We had that great Brian Branch, Sam Laporta in the second round. Obviously, third round picks, Kirby Joseph, Aleem McNeil, St. Brown in the fourth round, Derek Barnes in the fourth round. I do think Brad Holmes kind of needs to revert back to that mentality of like, let me just draft as many guys as I get, and this strategy of trading up to get guys in the middle rounds, both in terms of just doing it, and especially if they're perceived as like a project pick. I really want him to just take more swings at the draft, and then kind of to that point, you might even need to trade down at some point in the first or second round because they don't have a third round pick this year, and I do think that's a valuable spot going into next year. Like I'd love to have a third. Like they have drafted some legitimate guys in the third round. So, just with us talking about the draft right now, those are just two thoughts going around in my head. Like, if we can have a first, second, third, fourth round pick and use all of them, and maybe you get creative with trading down and as opposed to trading up. I don't know, but those are just a couple of things I've had in my mind because I do think the strategy of using up third round picks and fourth round picks to trade up in those rounds it really hasn't it's hurt us this year because that the 2024 draft it's kind of been unlucky with the Ennis Rakestraw injury and
Mhm.
Terry and Arnold getting injured this year, but then we also we're using picks to draft Sione Vaki and Giovanni Manu. Like, what if
Mhm.
we use the third and fourth round pick on a defensive lineman and we, got a lesser version of what we got when we picked the Lee McNeil in the third round? Like, we could have found some impact there in those middle rounds in some of these drafts where they largely have, at least right now, been kind of empty for us.
I think last year is gonna be a good draft class for Holmes. I
I
think that'll
agree.
be
I agree.
I
I
think that'll
totally
be
agree.
good. I think Isaac Tesla is gonna be good. I think,
Agreed.
Frazier will be I think he could be a starter potentially. Jeff Risdon said he could potentially start at tackle. I don't know, but I
It's
know that
he
I've
feels
been
pretty strongly about that, honestly. I
and
think he does view him as a tackle.
usually when he says something like that, I kinda listen because he said a lot of things that I was like, "No way," and then next thing you know, it happens. So, that's kinda where I look at that, but, their draft classes haven't been the greatest. I think you look at their draft class in was it 2024 where they had the, Terrion Arnold and Rakestraw and all
Yep,
that jazz?
yep.
Not
That
the
one
best.
looks like a disaster right now. I mean,
Well,
we need Terry and Arnold to be good, which I'm in the camp of I think if he stays healthy, he'll be a guy that would be a starter in the NFL, so we'll take him.
yeah,
But outside of that, I was thinking about this today. Like Ennis Rakestraw, I want him to be good, but now it's going into year 3 where he basically hasn't played because he's been injured. Like hopefully the injuries haven't, impacted his ability, and there's been no development time with him. So I mean, that's just kind of a tough spot for him to be in. Um,
well, I said when your best player coming out of that draft in 2024 is because I think the best player that came out of that draft, in my opinion, for his special teams alone is Sione Vaki, but he can't stay healthy on the field.
I know it's unreal. I agree, and I like going into this year. I was actually like, you know what, like Sione Vaki was like amazing on special teams as a mid-round pick. Like I'm fine if he's just kind of a stud on special teams. And then this year he literally got hurt every other game. So it was like that's just kind of a frustrating draft class right now.
Yeah,
It's unlucky in a lot of ways. Like if those guys had
yeah,
all stayed healthy, we could be talking about it in a much different light. But oh, I like that holiday thing.
yeah, 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 yeah,
But yeah, no, it was it's been annoying. It's been frustrating, and we've kind of been built through the draft, and we kind of haven't had a ton of. And this year, I'm with you on this class. I've talked about Tyleik Williams all year. It wasn't a sexy draft pick, but I ultimately think one, it was a responsible pick because you're very likely gonna lose DJ Reader this year,
mhm,
and I think
yes,
Tyleik Williams projects to kind of be a no-brainer starter. Um, and I like Tate Ratledge was kind of the like you needed to make that pick. That's a guy that I know the offensive line struggled and he's been a part of that struggle, but I think he's a legitimate prospect and a
yeah.
legitimate starter in this league.
I think
And
Tate.
Tesla is,
Yeah,
I tweeted even during the game, like I find it kind of amazing all of this. Like people have really kind of dug their trench on Isaac Tesla, and it's like, damn, like the guy's got 6 touchdowns. Like
yeah,
he kind of looks incredible anytime they throw him the ball. And really just in general, as a third round pick, like 20 catches for 200 or 300 yards and 6 touchdowns, like I think we kind of have to drop but we traded an extra third for Tesla narrative. Like that's actually been like a positive to this point. Like that you can't in good faith argue with me that he doesn't look like a very legitimate and talented wide receiver for a third round pick.
the 2024 draft class is where we have problems with. and I mean, that's where I have problems with. But the 2025 one, I think it's going to be a really good class, to be honest.
Yeah.
I look at Frazier, Tesla, and Ratledge, and Williams that are going to be good players. But I want to really put my attention on Dan Jackson. I think he could be a good special teams guy. He had an unfortunate injury to start the year. Ahmed Hassanin, I know people think that he's going to be like this Egyptian, king or something. He might not be like a great player, but he's going to be a good depth piece. I believe he could be. I saw one guy say that he was going to get 33 sacks. I was like,
It's
what are we
Egyptian
on?
king. You're right though. Like people went over the top with him. Like they were like,
It
"Oh
was
my
like
god, he's gonna have 15 sacks this season."
it was like, dude, settle down, okay? Miles Garrett is the most amazing player I've ever watched in my entire life as a pass rusher, and he's just got 22 sacks. Okay,
Now that you brought him up, I gotta ask you this: Did you? And this is kind of probably an obscure thing, but it was like a week or two ago. Did you? And I don't even know who did it, but there was a story out there from practice. This will like happen 1 or 2 weeks ago in a Lions practice where Hassanin like basically because he was like giving too much effort, kind of like tripped into Jared Goff on like a
mm,
practice rep.
mm-hmm.
And like Jared Goff wasn't mad at, or anything like that, but he was like, "Hey, like don't ever do that again," basically,
Yeah,
and like nicely, but like a matter of fact, like, "Hey, like don't like that can't happen again." And basically, Hassanin like for the next like 3 days, like anytime he saw him was like just felt so bad and was like apologizing like 7 times a day.
it's kind of like
But
it's kind of similar to you remember Shalik Calhoun
yeah, yeah.
played at Michigan State.
Yep.
There was a great story, and Brady even mentioned it on he
Oh
mentioned it
wow.
on podcasts and everything. And I guess Shirley Calhoun was like, doing the same thing. He was trying to make the roster, which he did. But it was in training camp, and he got tripped or whatever, kind of like that. But he rolled into Brady.
Wow.
And Brady picked him up by his helmet and says, "Don't you ever do that again, dude. Don't you ever do that again. Do you know who you just rolled into?" And he's like, "Yes, Mr. Brady."
I love it.
I was laughing my ass off. I was like, "That's kind of the way this whole thing works. These quarterbacks are money. I bet Kansas City's like going like, oh my god, we just paid a Patrick Mahomes all this money. He just tore his ACL. Burrow, the same thing. Like when he got hurt, you're like, if you're a Bengals fan, you're like, damn, it really means a lot for your quarterback to stay healthy, which I give Jared Goff a lot of credit for because he could have been sacked a lot more this year, but he's so good at avoiding pressure. It's insane for a pocket passer. I know a lot of people they love the
I
mobile
can't. I
quarterbacks.
really, honestly, and this Jared Goff discourse to me is just, and I keep bringing, I forget what show it was, but it's like we're living in a like time capsule that we're talking about, like, oh no, you can't win with Matthew Stafford, like he's no good. Like to
It's the
me,
same
it's like
people.
I can't believe we're like to me, it's like a full no objections like positive for Jared Goff that he was able to have this season despite everyone kind of unanimously agreeing the offensive line was not good. And there like we lost Ben Johnson and we had a mid-season who, by the way, like just losing Ben Johnson, people thought that was just Jared Goff can't even like put one foot in front of the other without Ben Johnson. And then he has a mid-season offensive coordinator change. Like anything and everything went against him that we all said, if this happens, like he can't function. And he's going into week 17 with 32 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He had the 2 interceptions, and that was his worst game of the season, basically. And even in that game, like the first half, like he was like running for his life and actually like completed, like he was making some great plays. I just
Yeah,
it's crazy to me that people think one that we need to get rid of them, and even with that, like then what's the grand plan in a time period where we're all then that same person's going to absolutely lose their mind if it doesn't immediately translate into an upgrade over Jared Goff, which would kind of be difficult to do, even if you don't like the guy. Like, who's an upgrade over Jared Goff that we're gonna get? Like, and how are we getting him? Like, that's the one time to me where you can actually, like, everyone says, oh, if you want to fire your coach, who are you gonna, like, tell me, list out who are you gonna get? I don't necessarily agree with that logic all the time, but in this case, you kind of do have to spell it out for me. Like, who are we getting that's better than Jared Goff to where we can even get him? Because to get a top 5, we would have to get like an MVP caliber type, like a no doubt, like a Joe Burrow or a Mahomes, or who are we getting? Like, so the whole thing to me is just so stupid.
I did this on the podcast after the game because someone said to me Jared Goff socks, which he typed it wrong, and I made fun of him. I was like, I hope I have Jared Goff socks. Anyways, I brought this up. So if you were to guess, who are the 5 best quarterbacks under pressure? Just guess.
Well, Twitter would tell me it would be like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Mahomes.
Oh, Lamar is on there.
Lamar is on there. Is Mahomes on there?
No.
Okay. It would, like, those would be my top 3 for sure.
Okay, your top 5. Here's your top 5. The best quarterback under pressure with 60% completion percentage. He has 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Dak Prescott. Second best is Daniel Jones, 58.1% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Okay, that kind of whatever. Drake May is 3rd, Lamar Jackson's 4th, and Tua is 5th. So I give you this. Wow. Take Drake May away. Who do you want as a quarterback over Jared Goff? I mean, I'm not really going to go the whole Dak Prescott route. No. Lamar Jackson, he's never gone to a Super Bowl like
that's the other part in this. Like, I always tweet, I do the same thing with Josh Allen. It's like Josh Allen has taken more sacks than Jared Goff. If you watch Josh Allen last week or in some of these other games where he's running backwards 20 yards and getting sacked. He's getting sacked left and right. And it's like, everyone always tells me these are the situations where it's like, oh no, if Jared Goff was like Josh Allen, he could just scramble out of these sacks. Well, then why is he absolutely screwed? Because his offensive line really isn't that good. And he's out here getting sacked left and right and killing his team. So, and you're right. These 2 guys, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson specifically, had like totally no success in the playoffs. And Josh Allen has basically, I think, kind of just been unlucky. He's run into Mahomes a bunch, but like he hasn't gotten to a Super Bowl. So it's not like it's this, bulletproof, oh yeah, we just need Lamar Allen or Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen to win a Super Bowl. They basically have done nothing in the playoffs.
Okay, I'm going to give you a statistic. I love the statistic. I love it. Every time someone brings up Lamar Jackson or they bring up, Josh Allen, just bring up this statistic. It's called P2S percentage, which is pass turned into a sack percentage, right? Your first 2, you kind of know. Cam Ward and Geno Smith, they suck, okay? We said the people under pressure. Here are the players that were top 5 and under pressure, but they've also created the most sacks for themselves. Tua was 3rd, Lamar Jackson 4th, Drake May 6th, Josh Allen 8th, Justin Herbert 7th, Jackson Dart 5th, 9th is Jacoby Brissett, and for the first time ever, Jared Goff it was 10th. But that's kind of has to do with his time to pressure and all that jazz. But you look at it and you go, okay, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Tua, the pressure that's turned into a sack is the highest in the league. Okay. Yeah. So it doesn't, them being mobile, well, Tua is not mobile. Tua got the legs of like a cement cinder block. But you look at those guys and you're like, oh, mobile should really help him out. Not really. And then, I look at it because, a lot of people were talking about Caleb Williams and how look what he does and all that jazz. Caleb Williams completes 38% of his passes under pressure. Okay.
He only completes like 58% of his passes overall.
Well, I think he's one of the most weird players I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, he makes great plays. He's just not consistent enough. I wouldn't want him as a quarterback, but Even Jordan Love at 41%. Matthew Stafford, 46.9. These are the people that are behind Jared Goff, okay? Bryce Young behind Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Bo Nix, Mahomes, Love, Dart, Caleb Williams. And the only people that are ahead of Jared Goff, it's like within percentage points. Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, and CJ Stroud. That's it in terms of percentage points, you know. So
I'm glad that Dan Campbell kind of immediately. I don't know if he was seeing all this or it was just because he got asked the question, but I mean, he like put his foot down and was like, no, like Jared Goff's our guy, like he's not going anywhere. So I just think the whole conversation's dumb. Like if you're someone, like someone tweeted at me the other day, I'm not in reality because I'm like defending Jared Goff. The reality is Jared Goff's going to be here for years still. So like at the end of the day, it's kind of dumb to talk about this. Like he's not going anywhere. Basically, any actual evidence shows that he's been really good. So I don't know. I keep ending my thoughts on this by saying I think it's worth discussing because he's the quarterback of the team and it is such a big discussion point right now within the fan base. But of all things to be talking about, given how this season has panned out, it really is incredible. And even the whole thing, honestly, with our offense in general, like we talked about it. It is the run game's kind of broken. The offensive line has issues. But these people that point to, oh my God, the Lions, because they don't have Ben Johnson, are screwed when they've had like basically the number one scoring offense in the NFL all season. And the Bears offense really is not as good. Their quarterback isn't efficient at all. And to their credit, their run game is incredible. And that's what's saved them. They have a fantastic run game. And they've
Chicago.
had 90, they create 4 turnovers a game. And they have 6 wins. And they almost had a 7th against the 49ers where they have 6 wins where they're losing with less than 2 minutes left and they end up winning. So
yeah, the Chicago Bears are a weird team. And I chalk it up to yesterday, we were talking about the 4th place schedule. Certainly Chicago benefited.
I did want to get into that because that's another I feel like that's another big talking point, and there's a lot of interesting thoughts on that, honestly.
Let's get into the game preview. We'll get into game preview, kind of what we think. Obviously, the Lions are going to play the Chicago Bears on Sunday. Just a little bit of a note for you, James, because I think we were on the podcast and we didn't see this coming across. Trayvon Diggs is going to the Packers.
Really? Wow.
Yes, which is it's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard in my entire life, but it is what it is. This game against Chicago, Detroit's only a 3-point dog on the road, which is kind of weird.
It was like 1 or 2 points for most of the week.
So it went up. That's DraftKings. DraftKings is a little bit weird. The Lions offense has has an advantage over the Bears defense. Their overall passing efficiency is 6th. The Bears is 13th. And they can't stop the run, which we kind of struggle against that too. But this game is a toss-up. I don't know if Chicago's going to take it seriously. I know that they can't get home field advantage and all that jazz. Maybe Ben Johnson wants to make a point of emphasis to Dan Campbell after them getting shellacked in week 2. And maybe Dan Campbell makes the point to be like, all right, everyone on the roster, you better battle your ass off because if you don't, your position is up for grabs. That's kind of the way I kind of take this game.
Yeah, it's honestly, I struggle to have much of an opinion on this game only because I do think it's a possibility that there's some like significant guys not playing in it. And I know that Dan Campbell kind of shot that down the other day, but then the media kind of pressed him on it and was like, well, like, is there a difference between questionable in a game like this where you're already eliminated compared to where if the game actually meant anything? And Dan Campbell agreed, like, yes, like, we're not just going to throw a guy out there now just because they maybe can play. I I don't know the list off the top of my head, but there was a ton of guys that didn't practice today, and I know that that's not necessarily indicative of who's going to play or not. But man, I feel like this is a game where I kind of hope we sit some guys. I know there's guys beat to absolute heck. Um, we don't really prove anything by winning this game. At the same time, like I know, like the Lions' MO under Dan Campbell, and I'm sure his mindset is he wants to go out and put the best foot forward and try to win this game. And they are only even if it's a 3-point underdog for a road game, that basically means that it's kind of comparable. So, and it is just kind of one of the, like you just said, it is kind of just a weird game, and that the Lions are eliminated from the playoffs. And really, from Chicago's standpoint, now that they can't get the number one seed and they've already won the division, they're not really playing for much. So it's just kind of a hard game for me to really, and the Lions kind of have just the last couple weeks have been really ugly. So
I
it's
kind
just a
of
weird game.
I kind of view it the same way. There wasn't much to talk about with this game. That's why I brought up at the end, because there's not really much to talk about. Lions are eliminated. Chicago can't really get the home field advantage. Maybe you play the whole underdog thing if you're Dan Campbell. Some of the players that might play, they when they got the chance to play. Because I look at the injury report. Here's the injury report. Alexander Zolin, no practice. Aosika, no practice. Tristan Colon, no practice, which is not saying much. Thomas Harper, no practice. Mahogany, no practice. Sewell, McNeil, and St. Brown, no practice. And a limited practice with Decker, Maddox, and Manu. So
I would definitely sit St. Brown. I tweeted that out earlier this week. I just feel like just sit him down. Like
he doesn't have much to prove,
hurt.
but again, you got a guy. You got a guy who, if he wants to play, he'll play. That's why
I know. I hate it for Sewell too. And I know, like, if you're playing Goff, I kind of want Sewell out there. I just feel like he's pretty, for a guy that's playing, I feel like he's probably about as injured as possible. I mean, this guy, like, Sewell hadn't, like, I don't think missed a snap, like, heading into this season in his career. And I've lost track of the amount of times he's been hurt and they've had to stop play, which I know for a guy like that, like, he's only doing that if he's actually legitimately hurt. And then he's actually leaving the game for like a drive or two at a time. So you're right, though. I mean, these Sewell and St. Brown are the definition of, no, I'm going to play.
They're your leaders too.
I really hope we don't get any more injuries.
And I love what Jared Goff said today. When they were asking him about would he sit or whatever, and he's like, no, I wouldn't sit. He's like, that's not me or whatever. I forget what he was saying in terms of that. He said, oh, you posted it because I'm the quarterback of this team, and that's what I do. I play on Sundays, bottom line. I don't care what the situation is. We're going to go out there and give it up what we have and try to win. And I don't care. The Jared Goff's a great. That's the guy you want on your team. And I think the leaders of this team, they proved enough this year. I think Sewell, St. Brown, that game that St. Brown had against the Cowboys where he was on one leg, insane. And I want to thank him for getting me at least 20 points in my fantasy championship.
You know how I lost? I know no one cares about fantasy leagues, but just as a Lion, I feel like Lions fans can relate to this. So I'm in the semifinals of my fantasy league, and I lost because Warren on the Steelers got 2 45-yard touchdowns in like the fourth quarter. And then I may have even been able to rescue the win because I had both Goff and St. Brown if that first touchdown counted, but then they called Isaac Tesla for pass interference. So not only did that loss end the Lions season effectively, but it also, because my opponent had Jaylen Warren, ended my season. So that was, man,
we kind of share a similar story. You know how I lost my one league, my work league? Kenneth Gainwell. Of all effing people, Kenneth Gainwell. And it was all because of stupid pass, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like honestly, that game was so stupid. Like looking like you have back play. I don't even want to talk about it. But what a stupid,
so terrible.
What a classic like play to happen against us, that Kenneth Gainwell play.
And there's one thing I will mention, if there is something to mention, that if you're a fan of the Lions, there's an incentive that one player has on this roster that he could potentially get and earn himself $250,000.
Oh wow, I haven't looked at these yet.
Roy Lopez, if he gets a sack, he
Oh
gets
wow,
two
I
hundred
hope he
fifty
gets it.
thousand dollars.
Yeah.
So hopefully he gets a sack. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Like I hope he gets a sack. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Sometimes you could bet on the players who have sack. You can make some good money if it's Roy Lopez. So
I
throw
mean, in
some
terms of we
bones in it.
talked a lot of offseason, that's the guy that I think Lions fans kind of unanimously want back. I mean, that was a really good signing. I don't think it would cost anything insane to bring him back, even though he has had a really, really good year and has boosted his value. But that just seems like a guy that wants to be here, and it probably, especially if you're losing DJ Reader, I think Roy Lopez makes a lot of sense to bring back. He's had a great season.
Yeah, Roy Lopez, if we look at it, his market value will be $6.3 million, which is not much because you paid $3.5 million this year to get him. And to put that in perspective, $6.3 million is just the same as if you paid Calais Campbell or you paid Daquan Jones, you got 8 million, or DJ Reader this year was making 11 million. So there you go.
Yeah,
And
Reader
you
gone, Lopez back, and you basically have three. You have McNeil, Williams, and Lopez.
I will say though, we were talking about the offseason. If you can get DJ Reader for this price tag, I would kind of take it and run with it. His price tag is $3.8 million. So you switch Roy and you switch DJ with their price tags, and you can bring back the same people. You know, that kind of is interesting.
Yeah, but he tweeted a Lions fan to. Did you see that, DJ Reader?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, I was just being sarcastic. I was just gonna bring up, yeah, we can't bring him back though because he tweeted at a fan to do something inappropriate. But honestly, I've been a big fan of DJ Reader. I think he's been pretty good here. I just think probably it probably just makes sense to get rid of him. Especially because he's been, regardless of what Lions fans want to say, he's been pretty good. He's been able to stay healthy too. I think someone will probably offer him something to where it makes sense for us probably to not match it, but we'll see.
Yep. All right, this is the end of the podcast. We'll talk more on the next podcast. Obviously, it'll be the off-season edition version of the podcast. There's going to be a lot to talk about after this game. Obviously, we kind of talked about some of the stuff, but me and James, we're going to go down the path of who you want to keep, who you potentially. We'll give you like little charts and visuals that way you can have it. And then James is going to be a part of the podcast moving forward. So if you like James's input, he'll be a part of the podcast for sure. And we'll see you guys after the Bears game. I'm not going live after the game. There's no freaking point. So I'll see you guys on maybe Tuesday or maybe, Thursday. We could do a podcast next Thursday, breaking down the whole season, what went wrong. We kind of did that today, but we'll kind of go into a whole memoriam or whatever. Kind of like you're getting rid of someone, someone's eulogy kind of thing. That's kind of what we'll do. We'll make it the Lions funeral. We'll put a casket on the
We'll have the schedule too by then, the full schedule.
Yeah, so that's what we'll do, and we'll see where we stand. And it is what it is. James made a good point. Fourth place schedule. Do you see the teams that are benefiting from a fourth place schedule?
Cardinals and Giants.
That's a huge piece. And if you play the Cardinals, I mean, the Cardinals might have Kyler Murray next year. I was when you brought up the Cardinals at one time. I looked it up. I've been following the Cardinals, and there's a couple people that are saying that they're going to trade Kyler Murray, and they're going to say they want to tank next year for Arch Manning. That's what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, I hope they do. Honestly,
yes. So we'll see what you guys on the next podcast. James, have a happy New Year. Everyone, have a happy New Year. We will see you guys on the next podcast, and thank you guys for. And Ken Fisher, this is kind of funny. Hopefully we lose on the last second field goal. Hopefully we win on the last second field goal if the Vikings win.
Hopefully the Vikings lose. We get the fourth place schedule. All the other teams around us for draft position kind of help us out. And then we beat the Bears, and the draft position's minimal, and we still get the fourth place schedule.
All right. Sounds good. We'll see you guys in the next podcast. We're talking more Detroit Lions football. You're on Detroit Lions News podcast. Happy New Year. 2025 wasn't kind for Lions, but 2026 might be. But we'll talk about it next year on the Detroit Lions News podcast. Have a good one.